Hello, this is Mike at Gamefromscratch. Today we're going to be looking at art applications on the iPad. This is part of an ongoing series we're doing about creating a game completely on the iPad using only software that's available on the iPad. However, if you're looking at art in general on the iPad, hopefully this will be of some use to you. If you're a game developer on a budget, which most of us are, the iPad, if you already own the device, can be a very economical choice for creating your art. Especially because you're more or less getting a graphics tablet and computer together, and where you really save the money is on the software. For example, Photoshop on the desktop is about $800. On the tablet, it's 10. And of the dozen programs we're going to look at today, that $10 program is actually the most expensive. So for about $15, $20, you can get a complete suite of programs to do just about everything you need, which is a portion of what it often costs on the desktop. The other thing is they're very accessible. So if you look on the desktop in World, there's a lot of free-ish programs available, or free programs available, such as the GIMP or Inkscape. However, usability is not their strong suit. Here you're actually kind of getting a bit of the best of both worlds. You're getting the usability of a big software company, and you're getting the price of a small software company. So there are some great opportunities here. This is a companion piece to go along with the blog I already did on the exact same subject. It looked at each using screenshots and a description of the strengths and weaknesses. The intention of this video is to give you an overview of what each application looks like running, including what the interface is like, what it's capable of, but very quick, very simple, because like I said, we're going to cover about a dozen programs in total here, and I don't want to go on too long. So this is just to give you an impression of what each one's like, so you can decide for yourself where you want to go. If you go to the link, it will be in the comments to the actual blog post this goes along with. You will see at the end that I do make some personal recommendations. Of course, whatever works for you, and it's something such as art. It's so highly personal that you can decide for yourself. But hopefully, in what you see here, you will see something that you like. The first application we're going to take a look at here is the tablet version of the venerable Photoshop. It's called PS Touch, or Photoshop Touch. This application, I'll tell you right up front, it's not where you're going to do much drawing, at least I didn't. It is, however, the application that glued everything together for me. This is where I come to make edits, alterations. This is, as you can see from the current projects, this is where I actually pulled together all the screenshots from all the other applications, edited them, and shot them off to my Dropbox account for inclusion on the blog. So this is kind of the Swiss Army knife tool you will use between all the other tools. You can draw on it. Art tools are not its strength. However, it does offer a ton of stuff that just isn't available in any of these others. Now let's jump in with a new project. One of the first things it offers is the ability to create a canvas of just about any size. I created a texture of an image of 4096 by 4096, which is about the dimensions, the largest OpenGL size texture you're going to want to create, at least with modern hardware, and handled it fine. A lot of the other tools are actually limited to iPad-specific resolutions or whatever arbitrary ones they provide. That is definitely a strength of Photoshop here. Let's jump in. Interface-wise, down the left-hand side, you've got your tools. Down your right-hand side, you've got your layer controls. Layering support in this is as good as any program you're going to see, other than maybe one. Across the top is your tooling. Photoshop has support for filters and effects, something that you're also generally not going to see. It also has a lot of support for cut, copy, paste between layers, scaling, translation. Again, something else you're not going to see very often. So if you want to change something that exists, this is your program. It is easily worth the $10 to do that. However, if you're going to draw stuff, not so much. So on your left-hand side, if you click on the tool, it switches between all the various tools and selectors available. Your painting stuff is right here. You've got a paintbrush, an effects brush, and a spray can. Start with the spray can because it's obvious. You click on the brush portion, it brings up your controls. And there's a spray paint in action. Click on the color thing, brings up your color dialog. You can switch between selection modes, swatch, bars, or a palette. It's a quick pick on the left, and your color picker there for picking from an existing scene. And that's about it. Otherwise, we go back, and there's our paintbrush. Paintbrush is your regular paintbrush, like so. Brush control, you got a little bit more detail. You can change the way it draws, angle it's drawn from, flow, opacity, brush tip type, and that's about it. So here's your drawing tools. On top, you do have things like smudge, smudge and blur. Smudge is not doing at all what I expected. Okay. Generally is for pushing the selected scene. I'm not really sure what it's doing there. And that's kind of it. However, one tool that is in here that is not available anywhere else is the clone brush, which is this guy right here. And cloning is invaluable, especially if you're doing texture maps from photo sources. So if you want to actually take in bits from an existing piece to another piece, clone brush is your tool. So what you do is you come in, you pick your source area by tapping on screen to see where the crosshair showed up, and then you pick your destination area and you paint, and it clones whatever's crossed. As far as I know, Photoshop Touch is the only tool on a tablet with this functionality. There might be more, but of the stuff I look at today, none of them have that. The rest of the drawing stuff is, well, there is no other drawing stuff. So if this doesn't do it for you, you're going to need a package for drawing. Fortunately, there are a number, and we're going to see them shortly. The other area that's somewhat unique for Photoshop is its selection tools. You can select by painting, you can select by scribbling, you can select by lasso, by bordered polygon, or using the magic brush tool, like so, which does automatic edge detection. It also has copy paste options. So let's see copy, and then we're going to do a paste. You'll see on the right, okay, yep. On the right hand side, in a new layer, we have our pasted version. So we can, let's get rid of selection. Oops. Select, deselect. Turn off the bottom layer, turn off the top layer, or we can do effects on our layer. Let's turn the opacity down and make this darken layer. Layering support is good as it gets. Selection support as good as it gets. It's one of the only ones with a copy paste type option. And the other area where it's unique is its manipulation tools for rotate, for skew, for scale. None of the I'm doing a stupid selection here. All right. Deselect. Oh, I've got the selection tool on. Sorry, that's me being really stupid. Go to another mode. Go select. Your layering tools, again, now let's do it this way. Scale. Skew. Rotate. That kind of editing function generally isn't available in other tools, or it's primitive, except for the vector packages, and they do the stuff shiningly well too. Here you can do adjustments. This is mostly aimed at photography touch-up, not really applicable to what we'd be doing, but it is in there. And they've also got filters, so say good old-fashioned sepia. And filters can be useful, sometimes aren't. Again, this is the only place you've got that as an option. And here you have a surprisingly range of somewhat powerful things. Here's where I did cropping of the image size. So if you want to bring it out at 1024, 768 or whatever, your cropping tool is here. Your strangely complete text support, if you need to add text, freeform lattice warping, some pretty powerful stuff in here. But again, this is not where you would go for content creation. This is where you would go to markup or change what you've already got. So that's basically Photoshop in a nutshell. Of all the programs I showed you, this one actually has the most behind the scenes that we're not going to be able to see, but I think this should give you an overview of what's actually here. Now we're going to take a look at a program called Sketchbook Pro. This one's actually gone through a bit of a rebranding. Now it's a freemium application which allows you to buy it as an in-app purchase, but at the point I bought it, it was a premium product. I think at the end of the day they're the same thing, and this is it. Sketchbook Pro is the polar opposite of Photoshop. This is 100% about drawing, and that's it. There's no editing tools here. There's no selection, no filters, no effects or post-processing. This is just for drawing. It has a very minimalist interface. Let's clear out. We don't want to save that. Your options, however, for canvas aren't as great. There's a bunch of built-ins, or your maximum canvas size goes up to just shy of 3,000 by 3,000 pixels with 4 layers available. Let's go with something in the middle. Let's go with Retina display there. And here is your basic application. Across the top, you've got you know, the create new that we just saw to go back to gallery, and then your edit mode, and then those other two buttons, the one with the little dotted line, that's for symmetric drawing. Kind of limited use, but it is somewhat unique to this application. And this brings up, again, some of the slightly stranger things that are unique to this application. Time-lapse allows me to make, if I want to share a video of my art creation process, you can actually record it in this app, which is kind of cool. Dual Sketch also allows, if you have this and somebody else has the same application, you can actually work on a sketch at the same time. But now let's jump right in. If you go back, let me close down that menu. Your base interface, everything revolves around that little circle at the bottom. You tap it, it brings up your tools on the left, your palette on the right. You'll notice the palette was already up. That's because, bring it back up, there's a little pin. I hit that, it's pinned, unpinned. Let's actually just pin both in place so that they're always there. Because hitting that little circle does get a little irritating at times. Now your drawing tools down the left-hand side, your pens, your pencils, your whatever that thing is, not entirely certain, paintbrush and highlighter and airbrush. That's kind of it. You can come in, you can select the different texture styles. What I do find, and this might be unique to me, but I am having a lot of trouble with it actually taking my touches. And I'm not sure why. It didn't used to have this problem, but it does seem to be a problem with the program recently. But you can go through, pick your various things. Those are all from, this is supposed to expand out. I don't know why it isn't. Okay. As I said, I'm having problems with this guy as of late for touch acceptance, which is very infuriating. So there's pencil selected, or supposed to be. All right, pencil is finally selected. That took me about 9 touches. So again, there's a bug going on where this is not working the way it's supposed to be for me. Again, I'm on iOS 8. Who knows what broke with the upgrade to iOS 8, but not being able to pick your tools is more than a little bit annoying. But here's your pencil. Over here, tap a color. Again, it's not taking my color tap right away. Pick the color you want. And I can't. As you see, they're picking, but they're not selecting. And you can draw with the color. That's about it. This is literally just trying to mimic a sketchbook where the tools are commonly available. The top right-hand corner, you've got very basic layered support. Now, layering is very, very, very handy for game art creation on a tablet because it allows you to do things like onion skin or trace over an animation frame. So if you're doing animation, you could bring in the previous frame as a background layer and draw over top of it. Stuff like that. Layering, without layering, that's basically impossible. What you would have to do is clone it and then change. Being able to draw over, trace over is going to allow you to do stuff like that you can't do otherwise. This layering, however, that's all it does. You can come in, you can create layers, you can reorder them, you can set them visible, not visible, and delete them. That's it. So this is your Sketchpad. I'm underselling it, but again, it's not working on my iPad right now. The bugginess is obviously a negative towards it. Now let's take a look at something else. The next program we're looking at here is a program called Artrage. Artrage also has its origins on the desktop. And the entire idea behind Artrage is just trying to mimic the real-world art processes as best as possible. Let's start up a new painting here. And here you can actually pick your paper type, your roughness of the paper, metallic. So we go into papers here. As you can see, the various different, let's go with the coarse paper so you can see the effects of the brush in more detail. So this is, again, trying to mimic natural drawing style. You can create some really neat effects in this guy. Now let's go ahead and get started. So there's your background paper. Across to the left-hand side, those are your tools. As I said, some of these programs have a lot more art-oriented tools than other ones. This is definitely going for that full out. If you're looking for a natural painterly look, this program can't be beat, except one glaring flaw. And that flaw alone is enough to make it so I can't actually recommend Artrage. Let's take a look at why. So let's go in and just go with the paint. Pick the color from the bottom right hand corner. So we'll go with this, go with a reddish color. And you can see some paint on the screen. And I'll come in with trowel. As you can see, you can come up with some very cool real-worldy effects. The paper underneath corresponds. The tools look and act like they would in real life. A crayon looks like a crayon. Highlighter doesn't look anything like I guess that's a marker. Pencil looks like pencil. They nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. It's just like drawing in the real world, except there's a lag. And that lag drives me insane. So basically, as you're going, the brush is actually about half a second behind where you're touching it. It does not matter the scene's complexity. It does this regardless to what you're doing, what kind of paper you're on. There's always this lag there. You may not notice it. You may not care. Personally, it drove me nuts. But this is Artrage. That's the bulk of it. There are blending modes. There are layers. Layering support is in here. You can export to most packages you want. But what you see is pretty much what you get. It's mimicking the real-world art process as best as possible. It does a really good job of it, except the lag. And the lag is deadly. Hopefully they get that fixed. If you go to the App Store comments, you will see comment after comment after comment complaining about the lag. And yes, that needs to go. And for the record, I'm on an iPad Air here, which until about 3 days ago was the fastest iPad you can get. And even on a trivial scene, that lag is there. If it doesn't bother you and you want to get a natural look, check out Artrage. If it does bother you, there's nothing you can do about it, except for if hopefully they'll release a patch at some point in the future. Now we're going to take a look at a different program. This next application that we're looking at is Bamboo Paper from Wacom, the makers of the popular tablets. The interface is snazzy. Again, this is a drawing-oriented program. It probably, to be honest, right up front, is too simple for what you want to do. But it is nice. Let's go into the, let's open up our notes. And there's a lovely, lovely drawing I did. Let's go to a completely new page. All right. This is essentially it. It is a drawing app. If you've got one of their devices, you can sync it up, sync the stylus and use the stylus with this. Over here, you pop out your pens, papers. Over here, you pop out your colors, eraser, and minimize interface, maximize interface, undo, redo, share, home, and that's it. Probably too basic for any use. There are some advantages. It recreates brushes nicely. It's fast. It's very responsive. It's clean. It's simple. But that's really all it does. So that's Bamboo Paper. The next one we're going to look at is almost an identical product, different company. Let's look at it now. This next application is called Paper. You may have heard of it. It's somewhat famous because it was heavily featured in Apple's commercials. In all honesty, I actually wasn't a huge fan of it. Here is the basic program. I didn't upgrade. Like I said, the previous one, the Wacom Paper, and this application are very similar in functionality. The major difference is the upgrade cost to add the extra tools to Bamboo Paper was $2 or $3. This one is $7. And for an application I wasn't that keen on, sorry, I didn't actually make the purchase. But I'll show you. So what you're seeing here is the trial that you get with it. Your sketchbook, like so. Pick a page, go in, and start your sketching. Across the bottom are your tools. It comes with the pen for free. You can upgrade to get marker, paintbrush, so on and so forth, and then a color picker. Pick your pen, pick your color, and draw. That's basically it. In all honesty, functionality is too limited to be of any use other than as a sketch. But like I said, this is a somewhat famous application, so I thought I'd mention it. But I don't think the functionality is actually good enough to be used. So that's the next program we're going to look at here is called Sketches. Let's fire this up. Sketches is in the same family as Paper and Bamboo Paper. And by far and away, this is also my favorite. Even though the interface is a little weird at times, you'll see why in a second. So again, it's organized in notebooks. Open up your notebook, pick an empty drawing, like so, select it, and you're in your editing mode. This is available for about the same price, fully upgraded. Actually, it's still cheaper than paper, fully upgraded. I think it was about $5. I'm not sure. Again, it's in the blog, the actual pricing. But you come in and get the free version. You actually get everything you see right now. What you don't get is the full functionality. So if I come over here to this paintbrush, you don't get these brush selection options. They're not available. So basically, you just get the base tool. And this is, again, recreating normal real world tools. There's your watercolors. Color selection, very clean, very straightforward. And you add new colors to it using color wheel. You get just any color you want. So again, it's just like the other two applications for how it works. It's mimicking real world art style on the device. Now there is a major difference, and this is again premium only feature. But if you do buy the advanced one, and if I swipe in here from the right, layers. And that's a big difference. So this all of a sudden becomes much more useful. However, your layer support it's not like Photoshop. You don't have nearly the functionality you do otherwise, but it does allow you to do that background trace over, allows you to organize things how you want to work. You can influence between them, but there isn't a lot of function, not a lot of tools built into the layering. But even the fact that it exists turns this from a simple sketching application to something that is quite capable. The interface at times is a little strange. It's all pinch based, so if I pinch in, there's my application. If I flip it up, that's my send it away thing. So if I want to save it to the desktop, Facebook it, email it, this is how you do it. Or swipe down, there's your controls. Left and right goes between your different art. Takes a bit to get used to the interface. There's also some other multi-touch interfaces for navigating around, but for the most part, very clean, easy navigation once you know what you're doing. The big guy thing on this guy, again, first off, the price is much better than paper. The tools work just as well or better. At least, again, I didn't purchase the full thing of paper, but it works just as well or better than Bamboo at least. And again, the biggie, layer support built in. So as far as like the sketchbook emulator type applications, this one was by far and away the favorites of what I saw. This next application is probably going to be the hardest one to do justice in a short period of time. It's a strange application that's designed for concept artwork, named, obviously enough, Concepts. It's a cool application. It's complicated, probably the most complicated of anything we've seen. This is the full version. I'm not sure what you get from not buying the full version to this, but this for technical drawing is unsurpassed. If you're trying to do precision-oriented drawing, this is your guide. This is actually a cross between a vector and a raster application. I think the end results are a little bit more on the raster side, so I included it there. However, you can export this thing to a number of rather odd formats, which we'll touch on in a second. In terms of drawing tools, it's very oriented towards drawing concept art. So it's emulated your pens, your pencils, your markers. And that's kind of it. There, and there. That's what you got to work with. Various sizes, various transparencies, various colors. But that is your basic tool set. There's no brush, there's no, I suppose there's an eraser as well. That's it. However, when it comes to control, it's pretty awesome. So let's go back to a pen. We'll do a fine tip pen like so. Now let's say I want to change the color. I go down here and pick this palette. This is your Copic marker color chart and options. So if you're trying to recreate the real world, real colors like you would as a concept sketch artist, this is the application for you. Come in, pick the color you want. There's your brush style across the top. Go on back and draw. For straight concept art, this guy is a beauty. What I also can't show, my screen's getting, oops. Let's go on, oops, let's go back to here. This is your sketchbook screen. Let's make a new one here. What this also has is precision drawing aids. And that's what you get if you tap this little grid of things. Now, using both my fingers, I can set this line up however I want, or I could pinch in to make a curve. Now, with my drawing tools, I can draw directly on it. Edit it out, so move my point like so. And this is probably the most precision you're going to get on a device. So if you're looking to do straight edges, straight lines, straight drawing, this is your app. It's pretty capable that way. This two-finger touch thing, it's great and annoying at the same time. You bring it together, pinch in, out. However, when you're using a stylus, unless you're ambidextrous, this is an annoying, annoying way to handle things. So if you want to do nice, precise, crisp lines, this guy is in there. You can actually measure to the size you want and trace. It is really handy. Turn that back off. Another thing that's really handy with this tool is your layering. Your layering is a little strange. You can do your background graphic, the underlying grid, pencil, so on. It's made for layering of details, not for blending in between layers, but there's a measurements layer, a pen layer, a pencil layer, grid layer. So for technical precision drawing, this guy is awesome. The other thing, I'm trying to remember exactly how I did it. Was it a setting? Yeah. You also can set up your grid, and where for games, this guy is really cool. You can do an isometric grid. So if you're going for an isometric style, you can grid it in the background in an isometric pattern, and then turn on snapping, and snap to your grid. So suddenly, your drawing goes between the grid lines if snapping's on. Layer control, this switches between them. Oops, no, it doesn't. That's your export. Oops. This, I hit the wrong thing, is where you go in between layers. Selecting active is a matter of it. You see on the right hand side it's active or not, and then go on back. It can be confusing. The layer interface is a little messed up, but the functionality is pretty kicking. I don't know that I would use this for any non-technical drawing thing, but for if you want precision, you want to do concept work, or if you want that clean line look, this is the application for you. As I said earlier, your export options are kind of unique on this guy, and that you can export as SVG, which is vector graphics, or DXF, which is CAD graphics, and then as well PSD, which is Photoshop. No other programs have these options, except for when you get into the dedicated vector stuff. So this is a kind of unique program, definitely worth checking out. I don't know how the freemium model works on this, because this is the full purchase version. I think it was about $6, but it's definitely a neat program. Again, it's by far and away the most confusing of them all, but in doing what it does it very well. Especially if you're used to working with markers, especially Copic markers in the real world, this guy is good for that. The next app we're looking at is Adobe Draw, or Adobe Illustrator Draw. Let me fire it up right here. Adobe has a dozen applications in the App Store, and this one is sort of a combination of them all. And at first glance, it's a very simple interface. You do projects that are grouped together, and then let's go into the actual editing tool. So let's pop in, add an item to this project. Straight away, I'm not even sure what the tools are. So you click over here, and you can choose between that thing, that thing, that thing, and that thing, and an eraser. Not really entirely certain what the difference is, or what they're trying to mimic. They do, however, make some very nice, crisp, clean lines between each type of tool. The interface here is super simple, super straightforward. Pick a tool, pick the size of the brush by touch and drag, pick the transparency or the opacity by up and down, pick the color, either from the swatch or wheel. All right, why are you not selecting? There we go. And draw. That's sort of it. And at first glance, that's not that impressive. However, there is some functionality in here that is really, really, really impressive. Over here, you can go full screen, out of full screen. Where I absolutely love this guy is when you go over here and hit shapes. And it's those first two. Like the last application we saw, concepts. This one allows you to draw lines and curves. Very, very, very nice interface to do it though. So I pick a line and I hit that double circle. And here you've got two circles where you put your fingers in each and you have a ruler. And this is beautiful. Every single program should emulate this. So if you want to make a nice, crisp, clean drawing, this is by far the best system I've seen out here yet. On top of that, as you saw earlier, there's also the French curve. You can use your fingers to expand it, and so on. And then once again, these two fingers control its positioning, and then trace over and recreate your curve. Awesome tool. Definitely, by far and away, the best way to do curves and lines that's out there. And if you look at the bottom of the tools on the left-hand side, you'll see layers. The layers are linked to the tool. I don't totally get that, but it does ultimately allow you to create. I can go into the photo layer, I can bring in the file to trace over. So this does actually allow you to bring in a previous image as a reference and trace over top of it. That's kind of it. It does nice clean lines, easy use, minimalist interface. If you've got a supported pen, hooks up and works. Clean as it gets. And once again, nicest lines, nicest curves of anything out there. Most impressively, completely free. I don't know what they're getting at here, I don't know what their plans are, but for free, this is a must get. So if you're going to do anything I tell you, go out and download this guy. I should rate them because they're very good, but I will. And just for the record, some programs nag the hell out of you. This is the very first time I've seen this screen, so it's not one of those programs. Export-wise, okay, that was not what I wanted. Oh, sorry, my bad. Export-wise, you can send it out to the Creative Cloud, which is Adobe's cloud storage system, or you can go to pretty much all the standard sources, or you can save locally. So they're not tying you in, they're not forcing you to a subscription, they're not forcing anything on you. They are giving you what is one of the best applications I covered today, completely free. So if there's an application that you're going to download as a result of listening to this, make it Adobe Draw. This is a great little program. You'll also find, if I go back to my list of programs here, there's Adobe Line, Adobe Ideas, Adobe Sketch. They're kind of all this program again. So Adobe Draw kind of took in pieces of every one of them and did it the best. So don't bother with the rest of them, except for maybe Adobe Sketch. It's a bit different. It's kind of a simplistic sketching program. The rest of them are the same thing, just less refined. So Adobe Draw, great program, definitely worth checking out. This next program we're looking at, Inkist. It's listed as being free for limited time. However, that was about a year and a half ago, so I think a limited time might be forever. This program is strange. This is it. You're seeing the interface in front of you. You can hide the interface. You can bring the interface back. It kind of reminds me of PaintShop Pro in the past. There are layer support. There's a front, middle, and back layer here. You can switch between them. Your drawing tools basically are limited to these 4 settings. So you've got a pencil that you can set the size of. You have this line tool. Again, you can set the size of. Drawing lines is handy, I guess. Dodge and burn, and erase. As you can see, I'm just erasing from the particular layer I'm in. So let's go back to the back one, and I'm erasing there. As you can see, by clicking on a layer. You can do all of the different things you wanted to before. You can merge, you can modify between them. A lot of the functionality is here. You've got a lot of manipulation stuff here. There's your color picker, rotation, modification, scaling. So a lot of the manipulation stuff we did earlier in Photoshop you can do here. It's free. The interface is an absolute mess. You'll notice that we started with what I was playing with last time loaded in the background. This is a good example. I haven't actually figured out how to load a new file yet. So it's free, it's capable, it's also very confusing. So if you don't want to spend $10 on Photoshop, but you need something to do, your editing, your resizing, your drawing, touch-ups and such, this is definitely an option. It's just a very confusing but free option. This next application we're looking at is unique in our list. It's called Sprite Something, and it's for created that pixel art style of the 8 and 16-bit generation. Let me jump right into an example. I'll just create a new one here. Create a new sprite sheet. So this is for creating frames of animation, not just a single sprite, but of course you could create just one if you wanted. That's lovely name, test. And this is 25 frames of 16 by 16 sprites. And let's fire it up. And there is your first animation frame of the sprite. This is a fat grid editor. Basically, each dot represents a pixel. And this is actually zoomed in beyond because we got 16 by 16. And let's go over here. We pick our pencil. We pick our color to draw in. And you draw. And basically that's it. You can obviously add some color details. Now really zoomed in, it's kind of hard to tell exactly how this is going to look when you're done. So you can bring up the preview. And that's what your frame of animation is going to be. So this is for drawing a very simple pixel style artwork. However, beyond the tools you're seeing here, which are more or less boiled down to simple erase, lines, and such, and then let's see, there's your color fill, and then magic eraser for edge tracing and such. Where this guy really shines is if I go back to over this sheet, you'll see that's one frame of animation in our sequence. You can now do things like, and this is the reason why I said layers were so powerful in the past, trace over them. So let's say onion skinning. So I want to create a new guy. And again, one thing I don't like with this application, the interface is a little confusing. So there's first frame, we're in second frame. I want to onion skin the first frame. There you go. So now I'm in the second frame and I can see the first frame. So if I want to create my next frame of animation, I can now trace over what we got really quickly. And there's my second frame. Same way as if I want to do mirrored, so like walking left, walking right. There is that guy. Creates a, so if I go into the next guy and do a mirror, I get the inverse of what I just created. And you can preview your animation, your frames of animation over here. You see each going. You can create a strip of all of them. So it's a very simple editor, but it allows you to put these things together to create and preview animation pretty simple. So if you're going for that lo-fi, chunky pixel artwork style, this application is quite capable, and it's I think also your only option right now. Additionally, and this functionality is kind of an add-on, so it's mostly about creating sprites and animating sprites. However, there is also, if you look at the bottom left here, tile maps. The tile map, let's open one I've already created. Here what you do is you create, in the last book we created a sprite sheet. In this one, I've imported a sprite sheet. So if I go to the top left corner here, there's a sprite sheet. All of those, each of those cells is an individual thing. I actually imported this from off the web. You probably recognize it if you've ever worked with any free sprites. But you bring them in, and then you use your paintbrush. So I go in here, I pick which my active sprite is. So I'll pick part of a tree here. You'll see it updated there. And then I go over my paintbrush, and now that is my active drawing tool. This allows you to layout levels, simple levels. So if you think this is anything like tiled or full-featured level editor, it isn't. However, it is currently the only option that exists on the iPad. So it does allow you to draw your levels. Oh, quickly switch between both modes. I don't know how to quickly go back. Let's go back, go back. Again, like I said, the interface is a little wonky. Allows you to draw your sprites and bring those sprites in and use them as painting brushes in creating levels. There's no more sophistication than that. So other than these options down here that you see, that's all it does. However, only game in town. So if you want to lay out and design a level on your iPad using low definition sprites, this you can use to paint with them. Interface can be a little wonky, it can be a little slow, but only game in town. For straight out sprite drawing, it does a very good job. The onion framing is definitely powerful. There is layered support in there. Actually, I didn't show it. The onion skin makes it mostly so you don't need that. The ability to automatically mirror and flip is very handy if you're doing two-directional sprite animations. But again, the animation, so the user interface can be a little bit wonky. The last two programs we're going to look at here are vector graphics packages. The big difference between a raster package and a vector graphics package is a raster package works at the pixel level. So when you draw at a portion of the screen, it basically saves the pixel of a given color in that spot. You work layers over top, it combines the colors, makes those into the output. Vectors work somewhat different. They actually take your strokes and store them mathematically. So you're working more or less in shapes instead of in pixels. With vectors, there's a huge advantage. This means you can scale up at whatever resolution you want, and you don't lose any fidelity because it's a mathematical equation. So as it's getting bigger, it's just scaled on that level. However, adding detail is trickier because you're not working at the individual level, you're working at vector levels. So let's take a look at the first option here is Inkpad. Inkpad is free, completely, absolutely free. And what you see here is a drawing done in it. Let me go over to layers and okay, it is unlocked. Okay, good. As you see, layer support, foreground, background, you create an infinite amount of layers. There's not really interaction between them. You can order positionally and so on, but the way vectors work, you wouldn't really be doing effects between layers all that often either. And then simply put, a vector is made up of a bunch of shapes. So let's see, here, let me zoom in. Actually, as I'm zooming in, you can see that is the underlying vector work. It's a bunch of drawings that you layer over top of other shapes, other shapes, other shapes. So this star, for example, is made up of shapes. And see the precision, see the excuse me, see the edging on that star. As I zoom in, the edging stays just as smooth. That is the power of vector graphics. Very handy. They do give you a very specific art style. You either like it or you don't, for the most part. It is very common, very popular on the iPad. There's several successful commercial games that use this style or via 3D emulate this style. Your shading is generally done by drawing over top of what you want to add the detail to. Again, this particular program we're looking at is 100% free. The interface can be a little wonky. You can work in whatever size you want. It's very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if it's based on the source code for Inkscape available on the desktop. Again, it's completely free, so I encourage you to just jump in and give it a shot. Thinking in vectors is going to take a bit of work. You are going to have to think in shapes and layering shapes on top of each other to make end results, but you'll be surprised how fast you can actually put that together and make some very impressive work. So this then was Inkscape. Now we're looking at another option, is the unfortunately named iDraw. iDraw is another vector package, very similar in Inkpad and how they work. Once again, you're basically creating simple shapes, building groups out of them, combining them to make more complex objects. This is, again, not free. This is about a $9 package, but works along the same lines. It's cleaner, it's more polished, it has more functionality. So if you find yourself using Inkpad and think, wow, this is confusing, or I wish this worked better, or I wish it had this function, check out iDraw, because generally that is the case. Also, iDraw has a nice set of drawing tools in here for just standard style drawing like that. You can, in some ways, it's a lot like concepts that we saw earlier on. This allows you to basically paint like you would with a normal stroke. However, you can then come in and edit those strokes. So you can create very precise, very scalable, very clean line drawings, quite simple with this. There's also texting tools, shapes, sizes. You can bring in outside images and so on and so forth, but mostly it's about creating shapes to go on other shapes. So let's show an example here. So let's start from, don't save, we'll go back in. Okay. There's a basic shape in iDraw. Now let's do another square on top, like that. Now what you can do is you can start grouping these together. I can turn it into a group, create them all together. I can combine them, subtract them from each other. So let's do that now. So there you can see Boolean style. So what you do is you start using all these different tools to bring these guys together and create more compound, more complicated shapes. At the same time, let's go back to a solid color, this red, get rid of the transparency. So there's a basic. You can also set a number features of each one. Your brush style, your shadowing, should I create a self shadow? How big, how far offset, showing it. So there, now we've got shadowing in our shape. I can't do this justice. I don't have enough time to get into it, but iDraw is a very accessible, powerful, capable tool for vector-based drawing. I actually find it easier to pick up than Inkscape ever was, even than Illustrator, and everything I've ever tried to do with it is actually in here. On top of that, there is a version of iDraw available for Mac only. It's about 25 or 30 bucks, which compared to iPad is really expensive. Compared to desktop, is really cheap. If this is the style you're going for, if this is what you want to achieve, it's hard to go wrong with iDraw. It's a great program all around. So if you're going to go the vector route, I highly suggest you check out iDraw. That's about the end of our programs. Of course, there's probably 1,000 I missed. These are some of the more popular or some of the ones that I particularly used. If you have suggestions of things I should have covered or disagreements with things I've said, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks a lot. Bye.